Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Fandom Family Chats. I'm Jeanette, and tonight I'm joined by Maureen,
Hey,
Melanie,
Hi.
and Bethany.
hey.
In tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing our top 10 favorite Gilmore Girls moments.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we'll go from, like we said, 10 up, and I can start with my first that came in at number 10.
So 10 is our least favorite. Not that we don't like it, but
Mhm.
of our favorite 10 moments, it's our least favorite 10.
Yes. And my number 10 is going to be a surprising moment, at least to my admins. Maybe not to the listeners because they don't know me well enough yet, but I am 1,000% Team Logan and always have been. You all can't see me, but I've got on my Anonymous Paratus t-shirt tonight in support.
Yes.
But my top 10 moment is what I'm calling This Isn't You, which is the moment when Jess convinces Rory to go back to Yale.
Really?
Jess is not my. It is, and maybe because it's such a pivotal moment that we're all just waiting for Rory to get her stuff together and get back to Yale. And it pains me to say it, but I am happy that Jess was able to get through to her and get her back on track.
I have to tell you, I almost put that one in my top 10.
It was my daughter's influence. Elena, I don't know if you know this, Bethany, but my daughter, she is 9. And she just tonight finished her first run through of the regular series. We're going to watch A Year in the Life.
Oh, that's
And
so
she's
awesome.
a big Jess fan as well. I mean, she's more Team Logan, but she's definitely a Jess fan. And so I asked her for her help. I was like, I need to put something Jess on here so I'm not completely biased. And she mentioned that. And I was like, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. We'll put that on there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
What I always loved about that scene, and it's not on my list, but it was close. It's like an honorable mention for me, was that, everyone was telling her that. Richard, Emily, her mom, Logan. I mean, everyone told her that she should be back in Yale. But it really was maybe hearing it from somebody that hasn't been around her for very long, for a time.
Right.
Or is somebody, somebody that wanted her literally to run away with him a year before had grown up enough to say, hey, you should be back in school. This isn't what you want. I mean, there was a little bit like, we could have ran away together, but you stayed in school. So, maybe there was a little of that there, but on Jess's end. But I just thought it just showed a lot of maturity for Jess and his character and see where it's come,
Yeah.
I agree.
Cool.
I completely agree, Melanie. I was actually just going to make the same point that I think that was a really good Jess moment. I think that was the start of the turning point of where he started to take more responsibility and let the maturity take over versus his environment and his ill reaction to his environment. So I think that was like a nice turning point for the Jess character, for sure.
Definitely.
The only reason I didn't put it in for the record is because I thought I was betraying Logan, so I didn't put it in.
Make me feel bad over here.
You should.
Aw,
I know.
don't feel bad.
No one tell Matt, okay?
No.
Disappointed.
So my number 10 is actually Paris in the Yale cafeteria. I know that doesn't narrow it down, but do you guys know what scene I'm talking about?
I don't know.
There's a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
She defends Rory to the dancer.
Yes.
Is that what you were thinking?
Actually, it's not what I was thinking, but that should have been on my top 10 list. I kind of wish it was now.
That's a good one.
That's my
Good
favorite
one.
because I mean, that's one of the reasons I love Paris is she's such a loyal friend, and I don't think she gets the credit for that all the time. But she's so loyal, and I think she actually really loves Rory. And so when she says that in her typical Paris fashion, it made me want her to be my best friend. So that's
absolutely. We all need a friend like Paris.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think that was a really good scene too. I love watching it. Whenever it comes on, I'm like, okay, everybody stop. Like this is where Paris is gonna do her thing.
And even at the end of it, when she's like, all right, so let's get on with what we were doing then.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. When Paris defends Rory, I mean, any time she does that, I mean, it's just like, so great. Because I didn't put this moment on my list, but I almost put the moment where she goes off on Logan after he finds out about all the bridesmaids or whatever. Even though I love Logan, I was still cheering her on because she was just at her back so much, and I really love that scene.
Me too. I love that scene as well, and I kind of wish that it seemed like she made her point but then it kind of, she fizzled back to, okay, let's move away from it. But I was like, go Paris. Like,
yep.
I was absolutely cheering her on.
Even the scene when she finds out Rory's not going back to Yale. Sorry if I'm giving away anybody's thing, but she goes to Lorelai and she says, Rory stays in the room until I finish a thought or a sentence. So like, even that defending Rory in that way, it was just, I love Paris and Rory's relationship. And the moment I almost put in there in place of this one is when Rory goes back to Yale and Rory's like, I can't feel my face. You can't see it, but I'm playing with my nose, because that's what Rory does when she finds out Paris is a roommate.
I just saw that episode yesterday.
I'm gonna stop saying moments now. Bethany or Melanie, you gotta go.
Oh, well, this will actually pair it pretty well into this, because it's a scene that involves both Jess and Paris. And it's my number 10 is actually, it's a weird one, so I doubt anyone else has it. It's Paris and Jess talking about Hunter S. Thompson and Jane Austen. This was at Rory's house at the dinner. And one of the things I liked about it was the first time we saw Jess be nice to somebody who wasn't Rory. In the entire show, he really was really nice to Paris. He had a really intellectual conversation. I'm going to go here. I really think that could have been a really cool pairing.
Yes.
That never got.
There is still time, Melanie.
There is.
That's
they're
true.
both single, as far
They're
as
both
I
single.
know. Yeah. So I will still ship that. I just think that they kind of mellowed each other out, because they're both kind of, high strung in a way and very opinionated. And so I don't know, it was just, and I think this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I don't think Rory is that smart. Everybody thinks she is. I don't think she's smart, but she's not.
She doesn't have a lot of common sense. She has a lot of book knowledge, but
exactly. And I don't think she's as intellectual as Paris or Jess. I think that Jess and Paris she wasn't even involved in that conversation. And
I think she is as much as Jess, but not as much as Paris. Maybe I think Paris is smarter than all of them.
You see,
because Jess is more literary knowledge than actual knowledge of everything else.
I think Paris is a little more well-rounded in her intellectual,
she knows everything. She does everything, doesn't she?
She does.
The other thing I love about that scene, Melanie, is that it's not just Jess who is like that either, but he tones down. You mentioned that they toned down each other, and like when he was saying salt and pepper dip, it's the only way to eat a fry, Paris immediately was like, okay, I'll try that. And so he gives advice to her too that she immediately takes, and that it's just a give and take between both of them. And I think when she said to Rory, or when she was trying to comfort Dean, she said, I like Paris, or Jess, stupid, I know. I think she was being honest. I think she actually did have a crush on him, but she could tell there was something between Jess and Rory, because Paris isn't an idiot. She's neurotic, but she's not an idiot.
It was. I agree.
That's a good one.
It's just I like kind of the subtle thing sometimes, like that, and a scene that people might even forget. But I just thought it's one that always stands out. And I love Jane Austen, so.
Yep.
And I don't like Hunter S. Thompson, so I'm a Paris. All
right, what about you, Bethany? What's your number 10?
So my number 10, and it's hard to pick just 10.
Yeah, it is.
It was.
And just because it's on the bottom of my top 10 list doesn't mean it's not like a fantastic scene that I'm really excited about. So it's really, really hard to pick which order and which, one to be on my top 10. But I'm going to have to go with I'm getting started with The Year in the Life.
Okay.
Ooh, sacrilege.
Well, you guys will like this. You guys will like an aspect of this. So it's going to be with a little help from my friends. When Logan sweeps in and they take Rory out and they just have that wonderful musical montage with singing, and it's just such a fun scene. And I remember when I first saw it, it was just yes. So that had to make my list. And it was hard to find where to put it, but that's where it landed.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's number 5 on mine. It's number 5.
I almost put, if I would have picked a scene from A Year in the Life, that was the one that I was considering, because I mean, I know a lot of people hate that musical scene. They think it's dumb. It is my absolute favorite from there. And maybe it's because I'm obsessed with the Life and Death Brigade, and that's just why, but it was just so much fun. And it was fun to see, you know, even after all this time, I mean, Logan, you know, he just swoops in because she needs him. And it's just a really romantic, and, you know, at the end of that scene, when he does that little, like, you know, taking a picture of her, I love it.
Yeah, it's just fun. I think it's quirky. It's definitely different, but just seeing them around Stars Hollow, and, you know, them at Josie's, and just everything. With, you know, the whole steampunk garb. It's just absolutely hilarious.
You know, sign me up for the Life and Death Brigade. I am there. Right? I am on that board. It's awesome. The whole scene was so beautiful. Sign me up for some steampunk.
I did not like that scene.
Oh no!
But here's why. I love that they come back. I love that they go through Stars Hollow. I love all the things that they do. I did not, and it's partly my issue with the whole A Year in the Life. They made it too fantastical. It was not canon with Gilmore Girls, and it ticks me off. So the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, that's not really happening in real life. They're not going into these buildings. They're not on a roof. Their light's not shining on them. That's not real life. And so I couldn't get over that. But the song choice was top notch.
If anyone could have made that fantastical scene actually happen, it would have been those guys, though, Maureen.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody could do it, they could do it.
And, you know, they totally
Andrew Lloyd Webber is the only one who could do that.
Right. Kirk's movie too. You know, they totally did that.
They did what, Melanie?
They totally bought the rights to Kirk's movies so they could play it whenever they wanted to. They totally did.
So I really do like everything about it, except for the how they turned it into the fantasy of a musical. That's not Gilmore Girls to me, and that's what. But if it was a musical,
that's what I love.
I would love that scene.
I think
I loved it. So I don't know.
I do too. I loved it.
I don't know.
It's my favorite scene. I know this is really crazy that we don't agree. That's my favorite scene.
Not a 40-minute. It's not a 40-minute Gilmore Girls episode. It was a 2-hour movie. You know, so I mean that it is a little different, and it can have that stuff. It's from, you know, and also. I disagree. I don't know, Amy. It's having. I almost wore my hat that looks just like Rory's. I should have, man.
You should.
I should. I'll go get it. It looks just. I bought it at Ren Fair, but it's like it also. It was Amy putting a little of herself in it too, which I like as well. When, you know, they're able to subtly put stuff like that in.
Subtle.
It wasn't
all
subtle.
the subtlety of a Mack truck.
Not the wedding was definitely not subtle. But
I didn't like that because on Network, I think what she did, and I love Amy Sherman Palladino. If I could be friends with her, I would be friends with her and Dan Palladino. I love them. I love what they did with Gilmore Girls. But I think what it seems like they did in A Year in the Life is they took everything they were told no about a network syndication and it's like, I'm going to dump this all into Netflix because now I can do whatever I want. I'm going to swear. I'm going to do fantastical musical scenes. I'm going to do all this stuff that I was never allowed to do. And it just made it wasn't Gilmore Girls to me. So I have a hard time liking. I watch it on all of my rewatches of the series because it's Amy Sherman Palladino, but that's what I don't like about it.
Well, I will give you one aspect that I think was definitely that, and it was that stupid musical. And I don't even think it was ever supposed to be a Gilmore Girls thing at all. I told Michael I don't watch. He watched Family Guy. I know very little about it. I'm like, Dan like positioned this for Family Guy. Like he was going to have a Family Guy musical. I'm guaranteeing you this. And they were like, no. And he's like, I'm going to find a way to do it.
Maureen's the odd man out on this one. We all love it. So it's okay.
I'm not mad.
No.
All right, number 9.
All right, my turn again. So my number 9 is, you'll notice I gave myself all clever names for all of mine. So I don't know, I'm going to be extra on this. Okay, so number 9 is My Name is Bill. And mostly just because I love that scene between Richard and Emily. It's so sweet. And not just I hated the time that they were apart. I mean, like absolutely despise that part of the show because it's just so heartbreaking. And so just them getting back together warms my heart. And not only that, the story behind the song that he chose shows us a little glimpse of like Emily mothering Lorelai, which we don't get to hear very often. So I think that's why I like it a lot too.
It also kind of gives you a hint of what she was like before, like when Lorelai was a baby, she was clearly way more affectionate, way more loving, and it's almost like the society she was in broke her down to be, because in later episodes you hear her say things like, I did what I was taught to do, what I was told to do. And so you get that glimpse that this is the mother Emily wanted to be, and she was not allowed to be that. And so it's so sweet that Richard reminded her of that. I love that.
And I love how I'm glad you mentioned on that, like the nurturing aspect of Emily and how, you know, protocol and society kind of, you know, dictates her sometimes. When you see her in different scenes, like when Lorelai graduates, or when I just saw the episode yesterday where Rory, those are strings Pinocchio, when Rory's trying to make an arrangement so they can pay for Yale, and the look that Emily gets in her eyes, you know, when she thinks, oh, I'm going to be able to see Rory again on a regular basis. It kind of all ties back into that moment of, you know, Emily being a nurturing mother and, you know, making that toast and mashed banana sandwich for Laura. You don't always get to see that aspect of Emily, but it exists within her, and you see glimpses of it throughout the series. And I think that's pretty cool to be able to catch that, you know, so definitely.
For sure. And you mentioned like Lorelai graduating. That was a moment that I almost, that's the moment that got bumped for the Jess moment, because I was like, okay, I've got to pick one. And I almost put it just because it's just such a touching moment. And I toyed back and forth, but, you know, I was trying to be a good person and put a Jess moment on there. But I mean, really, like, I love both of them. So it was almost on my list too.
The reason why I wanted to go next is number 9 is Lorelai's graduation.
Well, there you go. There you go.
I didn't even think about that one, but that's a good one.
It's really good.
And I just, the look on Richard and Emily's face when they see their daughter.
It's so sweet.
Cross. It is. And on Lorelai's face too.
It breaks my heart. And like, I started, because I was going through some of these to make sure, like I was watching it this afternoon, some of the episodes to make sure I like these scenes and it wasn't like just your memories, you know. And I almost bumped it because the rest of the episode is so horrible. Like, I mean, you know, but just I couldn't, you know, when they heard Lorelai Victoria Gilmore, and you could just see it in their eyes, and it's just so special, and it's so special for her and for them to acknowledge it and to not talk down to her because of her accomplishment, because that was really hard to do what she did as a mother.
And even after that scene when she's like, hey, can we take a picture? And then they get so like emotional about her wanting the picture with them. That was, I cannot believe I forgot. That is a good choice.
Yes.
It was actually on my list as well, and I couldn't decide, and I think I accidentally bumped that one, but it's such a touching scene. And my mom and I, whenever we watch it, because I'm always, when I'm watching Gilmore Girls, it's usually with my mom, and so we're like, okay, rewind it, and we'll just keep rewinding it and watching the look on Emily's face like just over and over again. It's an amazing scene.
My number 9 is also a Richard moment. Big shock. It's not the same Richard moment, but it is a Richard moment. It is when Richard congratulates Logan after Logan professes his love to Rory in the bathroom. And he goes up the courtyard. He's like, welcome to the family, son. And Logan is so terrified he can't speak.
I love that one too.
I love it.
Oh my
gosh.
Love it.
Fun fact,
and it's the little look that he gives, you know, as he walks by Rory afterwards, you know, like, I love it so much.
That was the one my husband wanted me to put on.
Yeah, and then he runs in the hallway. He's like, so is anybody else bothering you that I can take care of? It's just, I love seeing the lighter side of Richard, and I love that Rory, it's funny the difference between A Year in the Life and the regular series, because Rory brings up the best in everybody until A Year in the Life, and then she almost brings up the worst in everybody. In Richard and even in Emily, she brings out the best in both of them, and she so the fact that we see that lighter, joking, jovial side of Richard it's just so fun. And I love Edward.
I love it, and maybe it's I have like a super close relationship with my grandfather. And so like the relationship that Rory and Richard have, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite relationships on the whole show. I really love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome.
All right, Bethany, what's your number 9?
Okay, my number 9, again, it's really hard to pick. And Maureen, you're not going to like this again, because I didn't realize it until we were discussing that my number 9 also came from A Year in the Life, and I didn't notice that till right now. But okay, so Luke and Lorelai are my favorite couple, probably not just of Gilmore Girls, but probably of every show I've ever seen. So I think the concept of it should probably be number 1, but the actual scene itself, because there's so many other scenes that I love. The scene, of course, I think everybody knows where I'm going with this one, when Luke and Lorelai finally get married. Yes. when they're finally married. And I guess that could encompass as well when Luke is like, just to let you know, you're not getting out of it this time. Yeah. So I think it's just a beautiful scene to finally, it was just so wonderful. And to see that finally happen after the whole series of, seeing them together and not seeing them together, knowing that they should always be together. And then finally, in accordance with Luke's speech, all that they went through, and now here they are, they finally made it. And to see that success is just it's so wonderful. Yeah. So definitely Luke and Lorelai finally having their wedding and having that sweet moment. And
do you think she actually changed her last name?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. Yeah. I mean, if she were to change it, it would be for Luke, but I can't see her changing it. I think it would be Laura Gilmore, maybe Luke Gilmore. I don't know.
Right.
Luke would do it too. Luke would absolutely do it.
He would do it. He would do anything for her, for sure.
Number 8.
Okay. Number 8 is I Want a Chocolate Box. And this is when, because I mean, Rory and Lorelai are fighting because Rory's not at Yale. And so these are all fresh in my mind because my daughter just watched it, which is where I'm getting all my clever names. But, and so she finally, she realizes that Lorelai hasn't RSVP'd to her birthday party. And so she calls her up at Luke's and basically yells at Luke while he's having to relay the message to Lorelai. And she's like, I want a chocolate box. I want a chocolate box. So I just love that moment because, I mean, the show, when they're fighting, is so wrong. I can't stand it. So just depressing. It was torture to watch them not speak to each other. So that moment just makes me happy to see them finally getting back where they're supposed to be.
I like Luke in that scene too, when he's like, Rory said hell. I didn't know she could say that.
Yes.
She didn't even know how to say that.
He's like, she yelled at me. She was so upset.
Also shows, Luke's relationship and how he's always viewed her as his daughter, and he himself as her father. And, so it wasn't just, it's Lorelai's daughter on the phone or, it was, this is Rory. This is someone that I've known, her whole life, and she's in distress. And it's cool to see that relationship as well, shape that coming through.
My number 8, I know, is higher on Jeanette's list than it is on mine. It's You Jump, I Jump, Jack.
That's higher on my list. It's my number 1. So it is my number 1.
I did know that. So I think that I'm a Logan Rory shipper. I think that they made each other better. I think that, and I know that in our group, I don't know if you noticed this, Bethany, but in our Gilmore group, it is a hot topic. Like, people have left our group because they think we ship Logan too much over Jess.
They have. Yeah.
It's crazy how insane they get about it. So my God. To be fair, most of us admins are Logan Rory shippers.
Yeah.
What I love about this scene is that it's not, I don't think Logan is just saying it as a romantic thing. I don't think he's just saying, we could be together. I think he's saying, listen, you could be so much more than you think you can be. You can be anything that you want because I have faith in who you are. I know who you are as a person, and I respect you. I value you, and I see so much merit in who you are that you could have exactly what you set your mind to. Don't lose confidence in yourself. And so I think that it's easy to see that it's just a romantic thing that he says, but really I think it's so much more than romance. I think it's him truly seeing Rory's potential and speaking specifically, and even I would venture to say even only to her potential and her abilities over being romantic and loving.
Yeah, because I don't think it's romantic at that point. I think it's just more, but I think that scene encompasses what they do for each other, in that he pushes her to limits that no one else could have ever pushed her to step outside of her comfort zone. She's never been really much of a risk taker until she meets him. And granted, some of these risks get her in trouble, but for the most part, I think it makes her a better person. And so
absolutely.
That's why I love it.
I didn't put it on my list because I knew you guys did. And that was the only reason why I didn't. It would probably be close to number one. I think at one point it chitter between the top three for me. It's such a powerful scene, and it's about seeing potential in somebody that they don't even see in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that is so, and that's what you want. You want a guy, who sees something in you. That you, or anyone, you want friends or anybody, any relationship, you want them to see something in you that you don't even see in yourself.
Yeah. And even right before that, when he says, that didn't stop the greats, and she says, well, it's stopping this great. And he says, yeah, but you could use something different, not different than we are, but something new, something different. And he's like telling her all this beforehand, and that's I just like how iron sharpens iron, and I think that they have that. I think that they're opposites in a lot of ways, but I also think that they are both similar in a lot of ways that matter.
For sure.
I just love at the end of the scene where the guy was like, oh my gosh, that really worked.
I'm so glad.
It's only potatoes, but I'm glad nobody's dead now.
I know, it's like a big sigh of relief. Like,
so Melanie, you didn't have that as your number 8. What did you have as 8?
At number 8, I have That's How We Do It in the Daily News. I do it too.
Oh, that's such a good one.
I like that one.
Speaking of bringing out the best in each other, they work together to get it out. You saw both of them kind of smoozing a little with it. It was really cute. And he reminded me so much of Lorelai in that scene. And it's very, because she does that. She'll flirt her way or do whatever, she can to get it done. And she told Richard that. She's like, I do what it does to get it done. Yep. And that's exactly what Logan did. And I think even people that don't like Logan, and like when I first saw the series, I was, in college, and I was a Jess fan, or high school too. And when I go back, and I was like, Logan. But I remember watching that scene, I'm like, oh, I do see why people like him. Like, it's like the first time you really saw that, like you saw, I'm like, wow, that was pretty hot, and you
I saw it way before that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think
you'll see. I've got my number 2 moment. You'll know.
I think I was still into the bad boys, the real bad boys, not, yacht stealer bad boys. Like, it's not Paris's greatest moment, but
one of Paris's most entertaining moments, though.
No,
it is. It really is.
In her bunker.
But you know what? The same token, Logan and Rory didn't make Paris feel horrible about it. They knew she was she had a mental breakdown. She was beyond help there. Paris was having a mental health moment, so.
And to be honest, that was long overdue, wasn't it?
Yes, it was totally.
Yes.
She was. I love Paris to death, but being in charge of something like that was not. She's a very singular person. She works well herself. And
I like in that scene where when Logan's stalling, he's like looking for a pen, and it's like finding kind of a pen. He's like, "Ow, I'm still looking for a pen."
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's a good scene.
Bethany, what's your number 8?
My number 8. Okay, let me pull that up. Okay, so speaking of Paris, this is actually a Paris scene. And okay, so we always say this all the time, and I think we touched on this scene a little while ago. It is again the scene where Paris and Jess and Rory are eating Luke's, and when they originally invite Paris to stay, and she calls her nanny and she's telling her everything, and she's like, mucho mac and cheese. That's become like a household favorite term for my family. She's like, mucho mac and cheese. And so now we always say that whenever we have mac and cheese, we're like, mucho mac and cheese. Whenever we're talking about Paris, we'll just randomly say it. So it had to make my list. It's such a fun scene, and it was hard. I wanted to put it even higher, but there's just so many moments. But definitely that's probably my absolute favorite Paris moment in Paris.
Yeah. You know what's funny? That reminded me, the mucho mac and cheese. My daughter, she was like, she went to her stage when she was like 2.5, where all she would eat is mac and cheese, and she would go, mucho mac and cheese.
So my number 7 is
you're the lead, Jeanette.
2-bit gold digger straight off the bus from Hicksville.
I love that. Is my favorite Emily moment.
Me too. And I mean, for me, not even just the Emily moment, but simultaneously Richard talking to Mitchum and putting him in his place, and just the way, I mean, no one else but Emily Gilmore could absolutely slay that scene.
Yeah.
In the way that she did, with so much class and grace, and just not even losing the smile on her face while she said it. I absolutely love it. I mean, that is a scene that I will rewind and watch more than once when I'm watching that episode, because I just have to see it over and over again.
And I love too that while she's talking to Sheer, she's like, hey, stop by our table later, and then continues to harass her. They can just no one can do passive aggressive like that woman. It's just, it's astonishing and amazing.
And Shira is just sitting there trying to smile, trying to not draw attention to herself, knowing that everyone at that table is hearing everything she's saying. I mean, she's like, this isn't the time and place. And Emily's like, well, let's make it the time and place. I mean, I love it so much.
That's a fantastic scene. And that's my favorite Emily scene. It didn't make my list. It was for a minute. I bumped it. But that scene is just amazing. It's again, we rewind it too whenever we watch the episode. There we are rewinding it.
Even later on, when they're having their Friday nights are all right for fighting in that episode, I think it's that episode when they're all rehashing all of it, and Richard's like, tell him what you said, and she said, no, tell him what you really said about the weight. And so like, even Richard is super proud that she said all this stuff to Shira. And then Lorelai's reaction when she repeats it is just, I love that. Anytime that scene's brought up, I love it.
But I love also the sadness, and it kind of, I mean, even though it's funny and we're all like, yay, go Emily, there's a little element of sadness to me, for Lorelai, because they didn't believe her when she told them. They didn't believe it until they asked themselves and they found out, and like, I understand, I know, it's just, there's always that twinge for me with Richard and Emily and Lorelai. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's
I know exactly what you're saying. I wish it was heartbreaking when they didn't believe her, and that look of betrayal in Lorelai's eyes was painful. Like, when I've seen that episode, I've literally had to close my eyes because I just can't see her face. And it comes full circle. It finally, there's a resolution to it when they finally find out that yes, what Lorelai was saying was true, and we should have handled it differently. So I think there is that moment of resolution in that. So it is sad, but it's also, it's a moment of completion. I think it's kind of.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
I will say though that they never said they didn't believe her. They did believe her, because they were going to stand with her against Rory. Right. It was Rory coming to Richard with tears, because when she came in and said that, Richard said, okay, so what do we do? And Emily's like, yeah, this is not happening. We're going to fix this. So they did believe her. But it was when Rory came in with her sob story, crying into her grandpa's arms, saying, I can't do what mom's asking me to do. I can't do this. Please don't make me. So it's not that they didn't believe her. It's that they just sided with Rory over Lorelai. And I think part of that was because they saw another opportunity for a Lorelai.
I think so. They found that they had another opportunity to have their daughter back, as Lorelai mentions later on. And I think what it is that in, I think it might be Friday Nights, All Right for Fighting. I think it's the same episode, but there's an episode where they come back and claim that they don't remember.
It is that one, yeah.
That it happened. It is that one, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it's actually very satisfying when Lorelai initially tells them, and they're wanting to be on board and follow along with her. I think it's later on when she finds that they've taken a different path and then claim to not remember that even happened. That's when the sadness comes in. That's when she has that moment of betrayal from them, because she thought that they were finally a united front. And then that was not the case until later.
Mm-hmm. And I want to clarify, when I say sadness, I don't necessarily mean that is a bad thing. I think some of the most poignant scenes in Gilmore are scenes that have that, because it makes real families. It makes them seem like real people that you know and full, because that stuff definitely happens in families. And so I didn't mean that necessarily as a bad thing. I thought it was like it wasn't just, it's so awesome how the scene wasn't just a comedy scene about her, insulting this horrible rich lady that's the mother, but like it was, it's toppled with that they finally saw these people for what they really were, and these are people that they've been wanting to push on Rory. And not saying that Logan was like that, and I don't even think Mitchum was really like that. But I
don't think Mitchum did anything wrong.
No,
I don't think so.
Rory overreacted.
I think he should have used more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's okay. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like in the Mitchum situation, I think he should have used more tact.
I don't.
I do. Only because this was someone that his son was maybe planning to spend a life with. So I think there should have been more special treatment because of that relationship.
Well, Rory did say that she didn't want special treatment, and I don't know.
I know, but I think
I've been in Mitchum's position. I've never been an owner of a company like that, but I've been in a position where I've had to give that kind of feedback to an employee.
Yeah,
I think it's just so much harder to try to give special treatment, to try to dance around the issue and find a kind way to say truthful things. And so it's just,
I don't know.
If you can just be a human and say the truth is, I don't think it was that bad what he said.
I don't think he's wrong in what he said.
He even said, I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't think he's wrong in what he said. Y'all know me. I don't like any kind of conflict. So when I have to say all this kind of stuff, I make it as nice as possible. I can't handle it. So that's just...
Well, I think the only thing that Mitchum did wrong there was maybe not setting the expectations of what Rory was supposed to do with her. That is a problem. Mm-hmm. And if she had known she could speak up during these meetings, if she had known, because not all internships are created equal. She was a sophomore in college. She had never even done an internship.
Yeah. Right.
That was where I would fault Mitchum.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So speaking of family, I want to get to my number 7 because I didn't want to dive too far away from the Emily thing, because my number 7 is also an Emily moment. So we aren't lining up with the same moments. We're lining up with the same people with the same numbers. But it's the "You didn't lose me" speech on the plane. Oh, when Emily's buying her plane and she's saying, "Won't you just let me be frivolous for once, Lorelai? Please, just let me be frivolous and buy a plane." And Emily says, Lorelai says, "And you didn't lose your mom." And she said, I don't remember the exact, but she said, "Losing her like I lost you feels the same to me." And she says, "You didn't lose your mom, and you didn't lose me either." And that was just, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It shows you the depth of how much, and you see a glimpse of that when Lorelai says no to marrying Max, because the whole reason she didn't, the main reason she realized, is because she wasn't like her mom and didn't want to try on her wedding dress every night. So she's finding the correlation that she is a lot like her mom, and that's why they butt heads so much. But you just see the depth of Lorelai's love for Emily in that moment. And I just think it's so special and so kind. And for Lorelai to put her, because I mean, Emily has some really terrible things that she's done to Lorelai. So for Lorelai to put all that aside to care for her mother and to say kind words to her mother when she could tell she needed it the most is just, it was very touching. Whose number 7 is next?
Mine is way out there. Like it's weird.
Good.
Okay, so I know Maureen won't have it on her list because she doesn't like the revival. But
I have nothing from the revival on my list.
Yeah, I actually have quite a bit, I think. Well, they're just the big, overarching themes you wanted to see for a really long time. So I'm not a fan of this gentleman, but I did like the scene, and it was the cornstarch revival scene.
That was sweet.
I thought
sweet.
It was a very sweet scene, and it's that kind of situation if you ever run into your ex and it's like you don't really know what to say, but you kind of like talk because you've been like spying on them on social media, so like what, not really spying, but you have them on your friends list, and just to see that Dean is happy and he's grown up and like living his life, and he's not with Lindsay anymore, he's not in that train wreck, so I was happy to hear that.
I do like he had a happy ending. That made me happy.
Did anybody notice that his wife, I think he said her name was Jenny on the show, right?
Yeah, his wife in real life.
Is Jen. And then of course Logan's fiance is Odette, and Jared Padalecki's daughter is Odette. So I was wondering like if all that was on purpose.
I didn't notice that.
Was
the amount of kids too was the real amount of kids that Jared Padalecki had too, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, because I think Odette was born
it was after probably, right?
I think it was afterwards, because I think he mentioned that his wife was expecting, and I think they did that on purpose because like the kids and everything, it all matched up. So
because she's the youngest.
Yeah, she's the oldest one.
I love Jared Padalecki. Just throwing that out there. What is your number 7? Because I think Melanie just went. So
awesome. So this is a fun one. This is definitely a unique one. I almost forgot about this moment, but I was doing a rewatch and I just saw this episode a couple of days ago. And when we first saw it, like my family just erupted with laughter. We're just roaring with laughter. And again, it was one of those rewind scenes where we keep watching over and over again. And it's this scene, and it's funny because I think it's meant to be from one perspective, but it's so fun to see it from this perspective. The scene where Zach is trying to practice the hymn, "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God" for him, and he has no idea what the hymn is saying. He can't understand the words, and he's like, man, so he rewrites it, and it's so funny. It's such a hilarious moment, but I love the simplicity to it because he's like, our God helps us when things are bad, and the devil tries to hurt us, and a mighty fortress is our God. And I'm laughing and I'm thinking, how beautiful and simple is this? Because it's like bringing the truth down to like just such a simple message of not only are we laughing and enjoying it, but what a great reminder that that's like such a simple truth that like to bring that reality to a level that we can all understand that, oh, God is our fortress. Like he does help us when things are bad. So it was like the gospel according to Zach. And it's like such a perfect Zach moment as well. So there was just so many aspects to it, that I found so funny. So that had to make my list for sure.
That is an excellent one. I love that moment.
I love that like when all 3 of them are over there trying to figure out what these words are.
I know the dictionary or something, like what is that?
He's like, I don't know what word it was. He's like, is that a real word?
I know. I was trying to remember how to say the word that he was trying to say. And it's like, I don't think that's a real word. But that's the beauty of it, because that's all those songs was trying to say, like, hey, you know what? God's our help when we need it. And it was just so beautiful. Leave it to Zach to just like pick apart and deconstruct the song to be like, hey, this is all it was trying to say the whole time.
Yeah.
A mighty fortress is our God. And that was it. And it was just such a roaring laughter and just such a fun way to just realize that. So it's just a fun scene.
Absolutely. And I felt like that about hymns before too. Like there's some hymns that we sing in church. I'm like, So I need a Zach. I feel like we need to have Zach come with us and just stand on the stage for church services and be like, by the way, this is what it means. That'd be great.
It's like, have you ever been to what is that Italian restaurant? And there's one, there's a Texas restaurant too as well. I can't remember the names, but they do that. They'll translate. If you listen to, like, instead of playing music, it'll be like an Italian saying and then the English translation, or like a Texas saying and then like just the regular translation, like it'll be like y'all, and then they'll translate it to like you all, so like everybody knows what it's just a joke, and it's funny, but it's like that's kind of like Zach for this. Like, can we just bring Zach along and he could just translate everything as we go?
That's awesome. I love that.
This is the original version. Here's the Zach
translation.
Kind
of money for Lane and him, rewriting the Bible for everybody.
We should reach out to Todd Lowe and be like, hey, we've got your next moneymaker right here.
Not rewriting the Bible, but translating.
Translation, the new Zach translation.
All right, what about number 6? What's everybody's number 6? Everyone said a 7, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So
yes, 6.
Okay, so my number 6. Seems like your alls are so unique, and I've got all these basic ones. That's okay. I'm still like,
no, yours are awesome, and you got the awesome titles too.
I know. Okay, number 6 is "Will You Stand Still?"
That's a good one.
And that's just because that moment, I feel like we had all like just waited so long for them to finally be together. And in pure, I don't know, Luke fashion, with him, leaning in to kiss, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Will you just stand still?" And just grabs her. And then, of course, there's the comedic relief of Kirk running out, right? And
Lorelai saying back to Luke too.
Yes. So it's just one of the best scenes, in my opinion.
And then Suki getting so excited later, like when she pulls
Suki,
Luke
she's
aside.
like, "Wait a minute."
I love when she gets excited. She almost, like, with her hands, she almost gallops like a horse. She's like, "Oh!" And like it's always like.
I love it. That's how I feel like that's how we were all feeling. Finally seeing 100%. So yeah,
stupid Jason almost ruined it all.
Oh, Jason!
He's only stupid Jason because he almost ruined the Luke moment.
But you know what?
I hate Digger, so nothing redeeming about him.
What I should have put on my top 10 and I didn't.
Funny.
He is funny. But what I should have put on my top 10 if it didn't is in the same episode when Luke brings Lorelai flowers and she runs into the door. I should have put that on my top 10 list. We're doing a bit here. It's a bit.
But you know what's so funny about Jason being in that scene is that he goes off to the bathroom and he never comes out. Like, is he?
No, he did. He had a fire.
We never see him again
because he got called away to a fire.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. We don't see him, but they definitely. Is it Suki or who says that he got called away?
Suki has Michelle call and say.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Smart people. So my number 6 is actually a Jess moment. And it is when Jess says goodbye to Luke after Liz's wedding.
Oh.
When he's like,
good.
You have to tell somebody. You have to explain your feelings. And Luke says, he's like, "Are you looking for reciprocation?" And Jess doesn't say anything. He's like, "You got it." And then they hug. And I always get really emotional because that's the turn in Jess's character, is when Luke goes to New York to find him. And then you just see him be so vulnerable and open. And it's so like, I wanted to like Jess in the first couple seasons. I wanted to, but I just couldn't get behind. Yes, I understand he was hurt. I understand he had these issues. I understand his life was terrible. I understand all that stuff. But it still doesn't mean I have to like him when he's acting like that. So when you see this scene and Luke was the first, like, you think that Rory was the first to break through him, but she wasn't. She was just the one that he could connect with on a romantic level. But Luke is the first person to truly get through to Jess, and to have Jess reciprocate at that and care enough about Luke to Jess embarrass himself. Because Jess, I'm sure, found that situation embarrassing, and to just be so open and vulnerable with his feelings and hug Luke and allow Luke to give him affection. And you have to wonder how many times Jess was hugged by someone who wasn't like a girlfriend. And so that moment is just, I love that moment so much. And it makes me love Luke more. And it's like, thank God, Jess, we've been waiting for this. Like, we knew this was in you. And I'm so glad this is out now.
Well, he certainly hadn't been hugged by a father figure.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right.
So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when he left California, we don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke was definitely the closest thing he ever had to a father figure in his life. Yeah. Obviously, he wasn't with him throughout his whole childhood, but just that little bit of time, I think Jess probably truly finally was allowing himself to acknowledge the appreciation that he truly had for Luke, because Luke truly did take time out to be like a dad for him, to care for him, and to look out for his best interests. So it's definitely a really sweet scene.
Yeah. And I actually think going to California and seeing Jimmy helped him understand that about Luke. Because his real dad was
definitely
a crap pile, basically. And his dad said, I can't help you. His dad was openly admitting to Jess that I'm barely functioning on my own. There's no possible way I could offer you anything. I have nothing to offer you. And so I think it was that moment that Jess was like, okay, so love isn't giving whatever you want. Love is discipline. Love is what Luke was doing for me. And so I think his dad actually helped him realize how important Luke actually was to him. And so I just, that the whole scene is just tied together with that. I love it.
That's epic. I realize that concept, but to like really break it down and see that like his father truly did help him realize what he had in Luke, and to not take it for granted anymore.
Yeah. Melanie, Bethany, what's your number 6? I don't know which one of you is next.
Melanie, you can go first if you like.
Okay. Jess kind of plays into this scene. It's reflecting light the first time we see it.
At Liz's wedding?
At Liz and TJ's wedding. It just was, it was the first time we saw Luke and Lorelai dance. And then just, I didn't put it in there, but just when it gets parroted back at obviously the wedding. And I always loved that song.
Was a nice touch.
It's really beautiful. I got married in between the end of the show and the revival. And this was like on our short list of songs for our first dance. And it ended up getting bumped because like it made me kind of sad because Luke and Lorelai, weren't married, So like I was like, I don't know, I want to, and then obviously it ends up being the wedding song. So it's like, but
yeah.
But I just like it, and I also liked, it's sweet that Jess, despite the fact that Liz, has a train wreck and was going through her own stuff, and when he was a kid, he still was there to walk his mother down the aisle. And I think we see Liz. I mean, Liz obviously grew up a lot, in time, and not everyone can be a perfect mother at all times. And so it's a good thing that she's, she's growing and she's working on her stuff. So I don't know. I just loved their whole wedding. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And
me too.
That dance moment is forever tied with me. The opening of the next season when Rory comes back and she's like, see if anything's weird. Luke can waltz. Rory's like, look at how you just said that. and then when she goes in, she knocks on the table, and Rory goes, well, that was a little weird. I just those moments are tied to that dance for me forever. But I can't remember what Rory says to her about, look at how you just said that. I can't remember what Rory's response is, but that to me is that moment.
Yes. It's I love it. That whole thing. That song for me also encompasses that as well. And just when she runs into the table, and it's just, it's so fun to watch it. And it's the beginnings of Luke and Lorelai finally becoming Luke and Lorelai. So it's just such an exciting time in the series to see all of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
All right, Bethany, what's your number 6?
All right, my number 6 actually, oh my goodness, that actually kind of ties in. It's the whole Luke and Lorelai concept. This is a sadder shade of that, but I still really like the scene in season 7 when they're all at Casey's and Lorelai is singing karaoke. And so it's the other side of what we just talked about, but it's bringing it right back into Luke and Lorelai again. And so she starts singing, "I will always love you." And
that is my next one on my list. So it's my number 5. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Because we're leading into 6 to 5. So let's discuss this episode.
It's number 1 on my list.
Oh.
If my mom were a part of this, it would have been number 1 on her list. Like, she will watch that scene over and over, and we'll just watch it together and rewind it like over and over with knots in our throats and tears coming down our cheeks, and just to
it's
see
emotional.
That. It's a very emotional scene. Yes, absolutely. And it's incredible.
And Lauren can sing well. So, I mean, that helps.
She definitely can. My daughter, we watched it. She saw that episode for the first time today. And I mean, she's 9. It's so adorable. But she teared up. I mean, because she was like, this is just like, I mean, she was so emotional. This is so sad. Like, you know, why aren't they back together? You know, like. Right. So I mean, even my sweet little 9-year-old understands that Luke and Lorelai belong together, and this is torture. And
it is.
I don't know, just the look. My favorite part of that whole scene is I mean, she's singing, and I love her facial expression, but it's his little nod that he does. I mean, I just love it. I love it so much because I don't know. Well, it makes me like.
It does.
Sad and happy, and I don't know. It brings all kinds of emotions, I think.
It does, because you're starting to realize, hey, she's acknowledging, "I will always love you," and he's acknowledging that. So you have that glimmer of hope, the same way Sookie at West End was like, "Yes, I was waiting for you to say it. We're all hoping," you know, so gave that glimmer of hope. Will there be a Luke and Lorelai again? And knowing that, hey, no, even though they're separated right now, that there's no denying that they love each other.
Yeah.
And now they're acknowledging that themselves and to each other. And it's that glimmer of hope that, hey, this can still happen. There's still hope for their relationship. So
absolutely.
I think we all have that feeling.
Right, because you see everybody. I mean, you've got Sookie talking to Lorelai about it afterwards. You see Liz talking to Luke about it afterwards.
Right.
So everybody's kind of
even the expressions while she's singing it. You see them all look to each other and look back at Luke, and they're just like, but it's like this nervous anticipation that they all have on their faces. It's not like accepting, "Oh, this is great." They're almost afraid to hope for what they
right.
I'm sorry, my 5 is a Dean moment. My number 5.
Ooh.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I love Dean, so I can't wait to hear it.
Mine is when they go to the dance at Chilton.
Mm-hmm.
And Tristan's giving them a hard time. And Dean says, I'm not gonna fight you, Tristan. Well, why not? Because I'll kill you, idiot. Like, yes.
I love it. I love
Every time he says that, I rewind that scene because I love it so much. I love watching a guy be protective of his girl. And even
for sure.
He wasn't doing anything overtly offensive to Rory, but Dean was smart enough to see that he's not okay with
He's not a good guy. Yeah.
Right.
And so just how he was not asked, and they weren't even officially boyfriend and girlfriend. And I love that talk they have on the way home. Are you my boyfriend? But so just the fact that Dean is decent enough to want to fight to keep Rory happy and safe and having fun and just have people be kind and respectful to her. I love watching guys do that. I like watching girls do that too, but I really like watching Dean do that. I think it's really sweet.
It's chivalry. Chivalry is not dead.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's okay. Absolutely okay to be chivalrous.
Absolutely. And Dean gets a lot. I mean, poor Dean. He gets a lot of hate for a lot of things. And I think I don't know. I love Dean. I mean, he's my second on my list, you know, after Logan, as far as Rory's boyfriends go. And I mean, I think he may have never been the right fit for Rory, but I think he was an excellent guy. I mean, I don't think there's any, I don't know, I'll defend him till the end.
I think he was too insecure after Jess came into town. He let his insecurities get the better of him. He got very, very clingy. He got very, very dramatic. He got very, very needy. And I think that was why.
And I think that's what him and Rory were never meant for each other, because she was meant to accomplish more than he ever. I mean, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He was just a simple guy, and that's just what he was meant for, and they just didn't mash up. So
they were high school sweethearts, and I think he just was very young. You know, he seemed like he was, I mean, he wasn't grown up yet. He was still just a child in so many ways, and it was just a high school relationship. Yeah, and I think that was a lot to do with it, and I don't think he ever expected it to progress beyond high school. you know, but I think and Rory even mentions that too, again, at dose season, a year in the life, you know, if I had met you at a later time when I was older, more mature, and I think the same actually goes for Dean as well. Yeah. You know, I think they both just were very young in their thought process, and it was a high school sweetheart, really.
But I think they also really I think they really truly did want different things. Dean wants exactly the life he's got, and Rory wants the life Logan can give her. Yeah. But I think she says it in season 4, I believe, after they slept together the first time, or before they slept together, and she's at Lane's house, and she's saying how Dean was such a great first boyfriend, and he was a great person. He was respectful. He didn't push her for sexual things. He didn't push anything negative on her. He was a respectful, responsible kid. Even the scene where he fights Jess after he, you know, in the bedroom scene, and Luke is talking to Jess, and he's like, Dean was already there this morning, because Dean went over there to apologize, and Dean went over there to fix his fence. And there's not a lot of guys who are that age who would be that kind of responsible. So I think I have 3 daughters. So I think if one of my daughters had him as their first boyfriend, I'd be okay.
Right. And I'm in the minority in that I almost put it on my list, but I was like, I'm not going to be super controversial here. I was happy that she lost her virginity to him. Now, I was not happy that he was married. Clearly that was wrong. But if I could have picked one of the guys for her to lose her virginity to, it was Dean. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know. I rooted for him. I mean, I wish she had left Lindsay prior to that, because that would have been the responsible thing to do. But once again, I still say he was young and he was stupid and he got married way too young and he just handled things really badly. But I don't think it makes him a bad guy.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I think the situation should have been wildly different for her first time.
Well, the whole situation with Dean should have been wildly different. I mean, he should have had people in his life. Lindsay should have had people in her life telling them not to get married.
Yeah, their parents were like, yeah, go ahead, woohoo.
Less than a year. Like, this is ridiculous. Go to college like you said you were going to. You got into 4-year universities. Go to school. Get your degrees. And then think about it later, you know? And, I mean, I don't know. Call me traditional on that. But
I mean, even beyond that, his parents especially knew what he went through with Rory, knew what he had with Rory. And they were only dating for a very short time. Right. And it was a rebound from Rory.
Less than a year and a rebound. Yep.
So I think that his parents should have definitely been like, I don't think you should do that. You know, I think this is even not going to college, but just courting for a while, just seeing how it fits. All right. So who's next for their number 5? Melanie or Bethany, I think, are next.
Okay, so my number 5 is another quote that we always go around saying. So right after Lorelai breaks up with Jason, and it's the beginning of the episode, she opens up her front door and there's a cat.
Yep.
And then another cat comes, and it's funny because it's almost like that moment is in 2 parts, because it starts in that scene where the cats show up, and that in and of itself is so funny, the way it plays out, and seeing the cats, you know, on her porch and trying to rush into the house. But I think the moment that I love the most is a little bit later in the episode, where she's explaining this to Luke, and she just blurts out, "Cats came to my house today." And that is one of my favorite moments. And we'll run around saying cats. Every time we see a cat, we'll just, you know, quote Lorelai with that. And I think it's just so funny. So that's definitely on my list of top favorite moments, because she's just pouring her heart out, and then she just comes out with it. And it's just, it's so funny.
That's a great one. Melanie, what's your number 5?
Well, it was, I had a little help from my friends. We already talked about it, but if I could say an honorable mention that I had at this place and I kept taking it out and I kept putting it back in, which is Jess coming to ask Rory to run away with him. Not because I wanted Jess to run away with her, but I was so proud of Rory for standing up for herself, you know, and like just saying, no, this isn't going to happen. You know, I think he came to the realization that like that would not have been good. They had no money. They had nothing. You don't just do that, you know. And he I don't even think he has a GED. So like, what are they gonna do?
No, I don't think so either.
Like he can't go to school. So
number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is crying a little but not blubbering.
I love that scene.
Yes.
You guys are freaks.
Yes, Luke at the end. I mean, the whole scene is just, I mean, I can't watch it without tearing up.
No, who can?
You know, exactly.
Robots.
And I mean, just Luke is probably my favorite part, just because he's, you know, can't help but blubber over there, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I just really love it. So
I love seeing that.
I don't know how to explain that.
Him, blubber. And again, another nod to how he feels like he was truly a father figure in Rory's life. And
Chris wasn't even at that graduation.
Nope.
No, he was not.
No, he was not.
He was not.
Yeah, I love that they were giving updates like crying a little, but not blubbering.
Not blubbering.
Blubbering a little, on the verge of blubbering.
Yes.
I'm blubbering. You guys are freaks.
I'm blubbering.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Oh, Luke.
Luke.
My number 4 is also a Luke moment. It is Santa Burger.
Yes.
Oh.
Remember that? It was when Lorelai was uninvited to her parents' Christmas party, and she's really sad about it. She goes into Luke's and she wants something festive, and Luke's being Luke with Lorelai, and Lorelai being Lorelai, and he comes back with a Santa burger. And she's like, "Oh, you made me a Santa burger. It's disgusting." And she's so excited over it. And then she gets the call, and Luke immediately, without any hesitation, close up. I'm taking Lorelai to her dad. And I just, the whole scene right there is I love it. It's amazing.
Me too. I love seeing that when Luke springs into action and cares for them. And it brought hope of, look how much he cares for this person. You know, to see them as a couple, it was shades of what could come. I love that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
All right, Bethany, Melanie, who's number 4? Who's got the next number 4?
So my number 4 is basically it's the DAR, this is bullshit.
I love that one.
And I think what it is that, and we see glimpses, and some people are like, oh, it came out of nowhere, but we see glimpses of this part of Emily out the show. You know, that I won't say that she's putting on this show for Richard, but she kind of is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
she's got to be society wife.
Right, exactly. And she certainly has her opinion of what a wife of her stature should be. And she tries to be that person. And she tries to be a good daughter-in-law. And she tries to, and it's never good enough, obviously, for Trix. But it's just, she just finally is like, I'm done. I'm not going to sit here and let you guys toy around with this girl's emotions. Yes, no, she's not going to get in. We're not going to vote her in. Like, she's not, but you got to stop this. You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And she was just over it. There was no reason for her to still be part of the group. She didn't like these people anymore.
I don't think she ever really did.
I don't think you never really saw her do any actual social engagements with them. It was mostly like stuff she was forced to do, you know, like tea parties or stuff that she was supposed to do with like she called them her friends, but I don't think it seemed like friends out of obligation. Yeah. And that's sad that she didn't really ever have any friends. It's just like how it propels her to, you know, go to Cape Cod, which she's always loved, you know, and, you know, start working at the museum, you know, so it's, I don't know. I just really, I love that scene. I love Emily letting loose. And that was just like the pinnacle of all of that. And I think,
go ahead.
No, I think somewhere that like, so a lot of people are like, should we feel angry at Richard that like he held that in? Or I don't think that she didn't want to be that person for Richard, you know, but I think Richard also, he knew who he married. Like he knew everything about her. And there were parts of that he enjoyed, the fact that every once in a while she would, climb out the window without her pants on or something like that. There's a part of it that really enjoyed that, like that she would do that.
I don't think Richard ever had her be that, but if you remember the scene, the episode where she's going to throw them a party, Jason and Richard at their opening for their place, and he cancels it, and she says, "This is what I am. This is what I do for my husband. This is all I've ever done." So I don't think Richard ever asked her to doing that stuff, but I think she was trained by a mother who said, "This is what it means to be the wife of someone who's wealthy in this society, in this circle of people. This is what's required of you." So I don't think Richard ever asked her to do that, and I don't think Richard ever expected her to. I think Richard would have been happy if she didn't do those things, just as he was when she did do those things. But I think that with Richard gone, she didn't have to entertain those people anymore, because even when she was socializing with them, every time we see them on her patio, she's not being normal Emily. So it's, I think everything she did, she didn't have friendships, she had connections.
Yeah.
Right. Everything she did was to be the perfect society wife to help her husband further his financial standing and to further his social standing. So it was that's a good scene, because she finally realizes, I don't have to do this anymore.
You know what I always thought was interesting about it, and just the whole Emily and Lorelai dynamic, is that, Emily is in some ways jealous of her daughter, because her daughter has all these skills. Her daughter got a job. Her daughter can take care of herself, right? But on the same token, essentially, I mean, I'm not going to try to demean, but for at least at the Independence Inn for many years, basically, Lorelai was a glorified party planner. Basically, I mean, she did a lot of other stuff, but that was like a big part of what her job was. And that is a very important job. Obviously, Maureen does that as a job. And so, I mean,
I also ran a hotel where that was my requirement too.
Yeah. So, it's just, I think there's something interesting about that they both ended up in the same type of career and, planning things. And she learned how to plan from her mother,
Yeah, it's true. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Bethany, what's your number 4?
So my number 4 was almost my number 1. It was so hard to decide, but I love the scene where Lorelai and Rory are standing in front of the house where they just had the party, and Lorelai realizes that the fight that took place at that party was between Jess and Dean, and it was about Rory. And you think that she's about to get mad at her, and then suddenly she bursts out in song. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And just Rory's reaction to that as well. That's definitely on my list of the top 10. It's so hard to pick. Like I said, it could have definitely been my number 1, but that is such a fun moment. Absolutely. And one that we rewatch over and over again.
That's a great one.
It's typical Lorelai, so I definitely think it fits. It's really good.
Doesn't she say something to her beforehand too, where she says something like, "Do you have something to tell mommy?" or something like that? Yes. She says "mommy" somehow. So. I can't remember the line, but that line always gets me.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is such a good episode. If we ever do episodes, it'll be a fun episode.
Yeah.
To talk about.
Definitely.
We should do another rewind.
Moving
on to number 3. Jeanette, what's your 3?
My number 3 is I'm All In. And that scene, I mean, I just love everything about it. Not just, him saying I'm all in. I mean, obviously we love that part, but just him keeping the horoscope that she gave him however many years ago. And just the look on Lorelai's face that, he's had that in his wallet that long. I mean, just says so much. And then the whole thing about, Sniffy. I was like, what is it called? Sniffy's Tavern. And, her Luke has a Luke's. I mean, I think that was something surprising for us to see of Luke too. We really hadn't seen him much outside of the diner, And so just to see him and see these people that, obviously know him and love him and it was just really sweet. So yeah, I love everything about that scene.
I like too that when she's reading the menu, she's like, "Oh, edit people." And then he's telling her the story. She's like, "Oh, you wrote the back of the menu, didn't you?"
Yes.
And then when he's talking about the crazy one with the coffee, it's me, right? Oh, it's me.
But
Oh gosh, I mean, she says so many funny things in that. I was trying to think of what else, I don't know, but something about, she says you should listen to her, I don't know.
Yeah.
The lady that owns the restaurant, she was like, Lucas has never brought any of his girls here. And I just thought that was so funny because I was like, never?
Right. And what is it that her husband tries to offer them? And she's like,
garlic.
She's like, give him a chance, like. And then he tries to order a beer, and she was like, no, we're gonna have champagne.
And he hates champagne.
Yes.
I think
it's just great.
It's weird that some people are disturbed that he kept this in it. Like I've been in Gilmore conversations where people are disturbed he kept it for that long. It's like, why?
Well, I mean, I don't think he kept it in like a way, like in a creepy. I mean, I think it was more of like, how would she intrigued him? I mean, how would she? I mean, Lorelai Gilmore is just, she's an intriguing person, and I mean, she told him I don't know. I don't think it's creepy at all.
And honestly, he probably forgot about it at first until he was raw one day, and he found it. He was probably already in love with Lorelai when he found it again, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna keep this.
Yeah. How many times do you honestly think that Luke cleans out his wallet? Probably not much.
Not very many.
He doesn't go enough places to do that.
No, I agree.
My number 3 moment is the rocket. That's higher on your list, isn't it, Jeanette? Do you not have it?
It's not, but it's so close. It's just there were so many other moments.
Wow.
I've only got 2 more to go, and what?
How are you a real Logan fan if the Logan rocket did not make it on your list? I'm ashamed of you.
Look, I could have done a whole top 10 of Logan, but I tried to like spread the love. So I was trying
I had to fight to divvy it up. But I mean, there's so many aspects about the rocket that I love. 1, that he left it for her.
Yes.
2, the meaning, but also 3, when they're racquetballing. It's like, rocket man, rocket gum. And then she starts naming, and then Rory's like, you're just going through Elton John songs now, aren't you? There's so many good things that came out of that rocket. The only bummer is when she calls him and she's like, I can't wait to see you. I finally understood what the rocket. I mean, she didn't say finally, but she's like, I love the rocket. I'm going to see you. You know what? Yeah, I already booked us tickets for December, and then she gets bummed because she wanted to order them. So that's the only I wish she would have just taken the initiative anyway.
Just say, yeah
I'm gonna go out there now. I don't think Logan would have said no.
Yeah. But I don't think so either. Yeah.
I just think that was super, super sweet and just a really, I mean, it's so Logan. A lot of people find him big, grand, because that's the biggest debate about the engagement thing is Logan was only thinking of himself, making that a grand gesture. No, he's also subtle. That's what proposals are big. But there's a couple times when Rory has said, what did you just think of? I'm over your grand gestures when they had come back together after being apart.
Yeah.
But this was a beautiful, subtle moment. And I think this is more to who Logan is.
Well, he's a romantic. I mean, so I think he likes the grand gestures and just, I don't know. I mean, for someone who thought he was, not boyfriend material, I mean, he's so boyfriend material. Yeah. I mean, I know Rory. I mean, I love grand gestures. I mean, I would love for someone to do all those special things for me,
Yeah.
Yeah. And those were amazing grand gestures, but I don't think I always get weirded out when people are surprised by that proposal or don't think that proposal was a good proposal for Rory.
Oh.
He not only, it wasn't just about Rory, he was trying to include her family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rory is everything. To him, he couldn't care less about his family. But to Rory, her family was everything, And I think that it was showing that he actually knew his girlfriend,
Yeah.
And who wouldn't have been a good proposal for is Lorelai, not for Rory. Lorelai would not have liked that proposal, but Rory, I don't think would have had a problem with it. She had a problem making a decision on the spot, but I don't think she despised the proposal itself.
No, I don't think so either.
All right, Melanie, what's your number 3?
Well, we kind of touched on it a little bit. It's actually a Logan scene too. It's when they dance to Moon River at the wedding or at the vow renewal. And I just like his honesty in that, where he really likes Rory, but he's not sure he doesn't want to hurt her, just upfront and honest, about where he is in life, you know, and so to see that amount of growth from him, you know, it's kind of like that, you know, it's kind of like that maybe like, he's just not that into you. It's like, you can't actually change a person until that person is the right person, you know? Right. And so in that, you know, Logan did change for Rory to an extent. And so, and you see that, and I don't know. And I just always thought it was funny in her cute little outfit, how he's, you know, and
it's like
I'm kissing a guy. Yeah.
And I've always loved that song. So there.
I think, because that scene is great because it shows the depth of how much he cares for Rory. Yeah. Because he doesn't want her to be, because he could have had her be one of his trove of women, but he didn't want her to be because he understood. I love when he said, Rory, you're special. Like, eat the paste special.
Eating the paste special? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. But I just, I don't think he changed for Rory. I think, and I'm gonna quote Sanditon here.
Rory.
I'm gonna quote Sanditon here when Theo James's character says, "I hope I'm a different man now," and she says, "No, you're not a different man. You're a better man." And I think that's what Logan did. I don't think he changed. I think he became more of who he was really meant to be because no one ever gave him. I mean, all the women in his life, his mother just wanted surface level crap from him because she's a vapid human being, but all the girls that he dated too. I mean, they just wanted his money. That girl who showed up the next day is like, "Hey, Logan, buy me lunch." Like that's all they wanted from him was just his money. So Rory was the first person that he really brought out who Logan really was because no one else ever gave him a chance. All he was a party boy who had all his dad's money and could do whatever he wanted. And that's what was expected of him. And that's what he did. So okay, Bethany, what was your number 3?
So my number 3 is Luke can see her face. And it was that one moment where Luke is listening to the self-help tapes.
Yes.
The self-help tapes that he bought, and he's listening to it, and it's describing can you see her face, and it's saying who's the first person you want to run to when you have some good news, and who do you see by your side, and can you see her face? And he's listening to this, and suddenly he looks up. And it's the name of the episode, but you know that's exactly what's happening in his mind is that he can see the face of Lorelai, and he goes, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Moment where he finally realizes that we've all already known. I think he already knows it's been Lorelai the whole time. But when he finally realizes that, yes, this is the woman that he's wanting to pursue. And so I love that scene. It's that such a perfect way of realizing it. I don't think Luke would have come to grips with that any other way, but that is hilarious.
Yeah,
it's great. And then he passes that on to Jess, so it's full circle.
There you go. I think that really played a big part in Jess's turnaround as well. I think that was part of his breakthrough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, how about number 2?
Okay, number 2 is put my number, because this is when we first meet Logan, and I think. Well, not when we first meet him. I guess we meet him for a moment, but I exclude that scene because it's just for a moment and it's, not really relevant in my opinion. But, this scene, I think it's just so telling of who Logan is and just the fun, the witty banter between him and Rory, even with his like, okay, tell me that wasn't fun. And she knows it was. And I think, she may not like him yet, but she's most definitely intrigued by him and wants to get to know him. I don't know. The look on his face when he says that line, will always be one of my favorites.
It is great. And I think that when he says that too, when he's like, "No, tell me that wasn't fun." And she doesn't have like an outright smile on her face, but you could tell that she's fighting it a little bit. Right? Oh yeah. She even has a smirk. I think she has a smirk, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was fun for us to watch, and that's what Rory likes. I mean, she was on the debate team and she likes to do that, but I think that Paris kind of she was on the debate team with Paris, and I think it was a whole different thing to debate with Paris, whereas Logan was like poking fun and making you think on the spot. And I think that's what helped Rory do. Rory was thinking on the spot. I think when she faltered was when she got in her own head and had to make her own decisions without like coming up with something right then.
Yeah, I agree.
So my number 2 is a Emily moment, Emily and Richard. And it's I demand to go first.
Oh.
And I love that scene where she's complaining about everything and Richard's trying to talk to her and she's not letting him talk about his death. He's not letting him talk about the will or any of that stuff. It's, in fact, I demand to go first. And then the look on Richard's face when he's just emotional and he says, all right, Emily, you can go first. And I'm getting like emotional again, but I just love that scene. And I love Edward Herrmann and I love Kelly Bishop. And I think that they're so great at these roles. And I want to go first too.
Right.
So I love that. All right. Melanie and Bethany, what are your number 2?
Okay. So my number 2 is a scene. It should have been my number 1, but you'll find out why my number 1 is number 1. But okay, so the Lorelai's first day at Yale, and Lorelai drops off Rory, and she leaves. She comes back, leaves again, and she gets that page from Rory and come back with all the exclamation points. And so she comes running back and she enters in the dorm room and Rory is like, I want my mommy. As soon as you left, I want my mommy. And that whole speech. And she says,
why don't I hate you?
Exactly. Why don't I hate you? I want no, but I'm going to be with my mommy, And I love the fact, and she's going on. And in the middle of that, like she just yells, Mom, and just like puts her arms around her neck. And Lorelai's offering to spend the night. And she's like, no, because it's going to make me look like I need like a mama's girl. And then it ends with spend the night. So that's definitely, that is such a favored scene. And we watched it over and over again. I just saw that episode yesterday. I was watching a lot of it yesterday and have to rewind it, have to watch it again. It's just such a significant scene.
So Melanie, what's your number 2?
So I guess it's kind of appropriate for that. Well, it's my I'm just gonna get real here for a second, guys. My life parallels Lorelai in pretty significant ways. I was a single mom, and I had a weird relationship with I had a very strict family, and I had a weird relationship with my mother, especially. And so it was the time after Emily, when Rory first met Francine and Strom, and they were just terrible people. And Emily was in the kitchen with Rory, telling her how special she was and how how she was not, that there was, I think what was said was, it was something to the effect of, there was a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of disappointments, and we talked about those tonight, but not one of them was you or your existence. And I think that's so important. And one thing I loved about Emily and Rory and Richard is that the relationship that they have with Lorelai does not affect the relationship with Rory.
Yeah.
And that's that parallels very well.
That's a good scene. I think it's true Emily right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, number 1, our big reveal. Woo! I mean, Jeanette already told us what her number 1
I was gonna say, mine, mine's already been talked about. It's the you jump, I jump, Jack. So I think we've already hit on that a lot.
So my number 1 is the dorm, the season 4, episode 1, almost the whole thing. But the one that I wrote down was Lorelai. When they Lorelai'd all the restaurants. And then she was like, when the guy came up, hey, do me a favor, wait 10 seconds and then walk out. So just that concept, like, and I get nostalgic over my first time in a dorm and having that move-in date and having for the first time that freedom of living in a dorm with all these other people and the new experiences. And I remember so deeply what that felt like. And so I think about that excitement for my daughters, and I want to have the relationship that Lorelai has with Rory to the point, not all of it, because I think that there was way too much friendship and not enough mothering, But I think that in that episode, I want my kids to want me there with them so bad. And if they don't, that's a lot of pressure I'm putting on my kids mentally before they're even in college. And I understand that, people. I understand the pressure I'm putting on my kids to make the scene happen. But I want them to call me back and be like, Mommy, stay with me for the night. And I'll stay with them and I'll help them Lorelai the places. And
I'll max out my credit card.
Yes, I know 1,000%. My husband doesn't need to know until the next day. So we're fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally fine. My husband is more of a wreck than I am, I think. And that's
they may not
something.
say it, but I'm sure they're going to feel it.
Oh, no,
because I remember, well, I meant your daughters. Even if they don't say, Mommy, come back, they're going to want it.
Yeah.
Because I remember my first night in the dorm, I sat there alone and cried. I would have never called, but because I was just so overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I'm here like by myself. So definitely. I
think that's such a milestone moment. And plus it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great idea. Good job, Amy Sherman Palladino, for giving moms across the world a reason to stay in their kids' dorms longer. We appreciate you.
Aw.
Melanie, Bethany, what's your number one?
Okay, so my number one is, I've been talking Luke and Lorelai this whole time. And I think we already kind of touched on it, is would you just stand still? That's my number one, where Luke and Lorelai finally have their first kiss. And we just screamed, like we were cheering at the Super Bowl when we saw it happen for the first time. They finally had their first kiss. And it was funny because for Mother's Day last year, my brother and I got our mom a cameo with Scott Patterson. It was, I know,
that's so awesome.
It was amazing, and she started crying when she saw it. But they let you put little notes, for them to touch on when they record the cameo. And so we told them, hey, this is our favorite moment, when Luke and Lorelai kiss, and we all screamed when we saw it. And so he's reading it and he goes, oh, so did I. It's just like, I do too.
Aww.
So it was fun. It was not only my favorite Gilmore Girls moment, but then it created a second Gilmore Girls moment of Scott Patterson being able to reference it, for my mom, and the Mother's Day cameo was absolutely fantastic. So that's my number one. And it was so hard to pick. I knew for sure that was my number one. Again, like we were just talking about the dorm room, that was so close. And then of course after the fight with Jess and Dean, where Lorelai finds out that Rory was the cause of the party, and she starts singing "Did You Ever Know?"
You're my hero.
Yes.
So it was so hard to pick a number one moment, because those are definitely, I mean, again, we always rewind it and watch her sing to Rory over and over again. Like, that's such a nostalgic, sentimental scene. But definitely the kiss took first place, and especially after the Scott Patterson cameo, it all came together. So definitely.
All right, Melanie, what's your number one?
We've already talked about it a little bit. My number one is "I Will Always Love You."
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it is. And the only thing I could say about it is I love that she sang the Dolly Parton version too.
So we have some honorable mentions here now. Most of us have daughters. Our honorable mentions are from Jeanette's and my daughter. We have my 10-year-old, soon to be 11-year-old. She hasn't watched past season 4 yet, so she gave me her list tonight of her top 10, and we're just going to read through it real fast. So my daughter's first one, she didn't put these in any order because she forgot. So I think she just wrote them all down. So her, she has Lorelai asked Luke for her 6th cup of coffee. Season 1, episode 1, she even wrote. A great scene. And then when Rory first meets Dean, is her other first. Dean is the only boyfriend she's seen her with other than Jess. So Dean is her favorite right now. Lane and Rory are in Lane's mom's shop and they try to find mom. That's the episode where she's Lane, mom, over here. We're here.
Next to the chair. Which chair?
And then when Christopher gets Rory a dictionary, when he actually follows through and gets her that dictionary, that's your favorite. When Lorelai is surprised that Chris is not riding a motorcycle when he shows up with the Volvo. She likes that scene. When Sherry says green is the new pink is one of her favorite scenes. When Lorelai and Rory make a Bjork snowman is her other one. 3 more. So Lane sneaks calls with Crush or her boyfriend when Rory and Dean are dating, and Rory has to be like the go-between for her and Henry. She said when Emily and Lorelai bond. Not sure which one that is. Maybe she just means anytime they bond. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the last one she has is Lorelai joins a club from Chilton. Not even Rory, but when Lorelai joins the booster club, and she does I think it's because of the fashion show. She wants to do the fashion show with me.
Oh, that's such a wonderful scene.
So fun.
That's one of her favorite scenes is the fashion show.
Oh.
All right. Now, what about your daughter, Jeanette?
All right. So my daughter, she is 9. She almost 10. She is actually just today finished the last episode for the current season. We're going to watch A Year in the Life together. But she's also Team Logan, so smart girl. So a lot of hers were also on mine, but a couple of them that I did not have. She had when Zach proposes, because she's a big Zach fan too, so she really liked that.
Also smart girl.
She had when Rory, it's when Logan's in the hospital and Rory calls and yells at Mitchum to get his butt down there.
Yes, that's a good one.
Which is a great one. Yes, let's see. Oh, and she likes the scene where I think this is one where Logan's being really protective after he finds out what Mitchum had said to her.
Oh, yes.
And he does the whole I need to know why we're committing a felony before we do it. Not that that'll stop us, but at least we'll have all the facts. Let's see, she had the one where, sorry, I'm trying to read them over here. Where at the wedding where Rory and Logan are kissing and both Christopher or Lorelai walks in, and then Christopher walks in, and then Luke walks in. She thought that was really funny. And then she wanted to give, she's got a quote here from Michelle of the people that are being particularly stupid today. She thinks he is just the funniest.
I love seeing a Michelle moment on the top 10.
Yes. So she loves Michelle. He's probably one of her favorites too.
He's my favorite too.
Yeah. So those are hers.
All right. So we've got our top 10. That was a little long, guys. Sorry about that, but I mean we can't not talk a lot about Gilmore. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Next time we do a Gilmore challenge, we won't do our top 10. Maybe we'll do our top 5.
Maybe that's right. Good idea, right?
Instead of 2.
Real quick before I didn't even notice this because I forgot to ask my daughter. She just turned 14 2 days ago. So she wanted me to say, she said, can't think of a top 10. From her room, she texted me this right before bed. Can't think of a top 10, but you have to mention, someone has to mention, so if no one does, please mention when Jess gets thrown into the river.
Yeah, that's a great
Very funny. Definitely.
Love that scene.
It's he deserves it so much.
1,000%. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I just
no, that's fine. I knew your daughter didn't make a top 10 list. That's why I didn't touch on you. But I'm so glad you shared that.
So we want to thank you for joining us on this episode tonight. Did you all agree with our top 10s? Were there any that we missed? Feel free to leave us a comment on our Podbean account, and then make sure to subscribe so that you can catch our next episodes for some of our other favorite shows. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.